Good evening, everyone. We are welcoming Mr. Shankar Aiyar, who needs no introduction, to the National Herald office for a kind of a live streaming that we have just started. And it is nice of him to have agreed to come here and answer a few questions. So, Mr. Aiyar, without much ado, how do you see the present political situation in India and the role of the Congress?
The two are interrelated. First, I see ourselves in the most dangerous situation we have been in since 1947, because we have a dominant party and a predominant leader whose idea of India is in many ways the polar opposite of what had been projected as the nature of our nationhood from the time of the independence movement till after independence and up till now. This is that we regard India as the inheritor of a composite civilization to which every single element that has been interacting with India, be it in the early days, the Aryans coming into the country, or the Kushans coming in, or the Huns coming in, or the Muslims coming in, or the Christians coming in. We've drawn from everybody and created this composite India, and it is in danger of being lost to a group of people who have been attempting for almost exactly 100 years now to promote the idea of Hindutva, which does not mean Hinduism, but is the equivalent, as Savarkar himself said, of Christendom. He translated Hindutva into Hindudom, and what he said was that this is a Hindu country and it should be run as a Hindu Rashtra. And the minute one poses this as the opposite of one another, as a composite India for all Indians, or as a Hindu Rashtra where a citizen is privileged on account of belonging to the majority religion, you see that the two objectives are irreconcilable. And that therefore the Rift Valley in Indian politics has not, as in most other countries, been on matters of economic policy, but on this question of our nationhood. Do we belong to all Indians, or do we need to promote the interests of a specified group of Indians who happen to be in a very large majority of some 85%.
But you made a very interesting point that this government got only 31% of the votes. But somehow there is a perception that this government enjoys the overwhelming support of Indians. The majority of Indians feel that they are doing a very good job.
What's the figures tell their own story. Unfortunately, the majority of Indians are so fractionated among various linguistic parties, between various caste-based parties, between various religion-based parties, between various class-based parties, that the 70% who do not wish to see India going down the BJP path split their votes in such a way that somebody with 30% of the vote is able to not only become the predominant political authority in the country, but to be perceived as representing a huge majority of Indians. He doesn't. What is the option? The option, I think, is to move away from thinking that the BJP can be confronted by a single, inclusive All India party, such as the International Conferences, and working towards a coalition of various entities in India, political entities in India, who have some kind of a unity based on their subscribing to the old idea of a composite civilization and rejecting the idea of a Hindu Rashtra.
Anything happening on the ground? Excuse me, there is a question from one of our viewers, Ravinder Kumar Bali, who's asking that why is the Congress not proactive? Why is the Congress not getting rid of armchair politicians?
Well, since I'm sitting in an armchair, I think Mr. Bali wants to get rid of me. But the fact of the matter is that if the Congress were not active and were not spread out all over the country, how is it that we are the largest single party of the opposition? Quite clearly, despite our having had our worst outing ever in 2014, after having been at over 400 seats in 1984, we've obviously declined in our vote share. And I think that's because the Indian polity has got fractionated, particularly on the basis of linguistic nationalism, but also on some other bases, particularly in North India. With the result that we have the curious situation today that a Dravidian party and only a Dravidian party can win in Tamil Nadu, but no Dravidian party can get a single seat in Andhra Pradesh. And in Andhra Pradesh, the Telugu Desam is completely dominant, but can't get a seat in Orissa. In Orissa, Naveen Patnaik has won again, and won yet again, and won a fourth time, but doesn't have a seat in Bengal. In Bengal, Mamata Banerjee is obviously an overwhelmingly popular leader, but she doesn't have a seat in Bihar. And then it gets a bit amusing because while it's difficult to defeat either Lalu or Nitish in Bihar, they've never succeeded in getting a single seat after crossing Delhi on Son into Varanasi. And reciprocally, neither Mulayam Singh Yadav nor Mayawati, nor any of their supporters has ever succeeded in crossing the same river to try and win Delhi on Son. And in Punjab for a long time, it's only a Sikh and only a Punjabi speaker who can become chief minister. And for that reason, they're not able to secure a position in Haryana. And then we have the situation in the Western and the Central Indian states where religion becomes the basis of political participation. We have in a national government today a party that has not fielded a single Muslim in a Lok Sabha election or a Vidhan Sabha election. They've picked a few Quisling types whom they got into the Rajya Sabha, but they are unable to find a single constituency in India or a single leader from within their ranks who can credibly get the support of the people. Now, that's not the kind of party that ought to be running as diverse a country as ours.
You seem to be hugely popular with our viewers, and the questions are just streaming in. But there are two interesting questions. I mean, one of them is asking, he's asking that there is a need to revive the Congress Seva Dal. Why is it not being done? And is there, and the political management, the legendary political management and the electoral management of the party of the elections.
Both those questions are interrelated, so I'm glad you asked them together. I don't think there's a need particularly to revive the Congress Seva Dal. There is a desperate need to revive the whole of the Congress organization. And I think the Congress organization is not proving itself as adept at the management as it used to be, because times and circumstances have changed. And instead of being a party that is led almost exclusively from the center, which is, I think, encapsulated in the phrase that is a peculiarly Congress phrase, the high command, we need to have a ground command. We need to have much more involvement of people who are serving the Congress at the grassroots.
As compared to the BJP, which has a ground command as well as the high
command.
Only
now. They've been in power for 3 years. They're a total Johnny come lately. Vajpayee had to go through 3 avatars before he became a full-term prime minister. And when they ended it, they said, India is shining. And India taught them a lesson that no, India is in darkness. So I am not impressed by the fact that the BJP has been in power for the last 3 years. We've been in power virtually since 1947. But circumstances have changed, and the Congress has nurtured democracy to the point where it can be challenged by other democratic elements. I think that's a major achievement.
The RSS seems to have flourished under the Congress.
The RSS has succeeded in 2014. If it was flourishing then in an 85% Hindu country, they should have won in 1947 and never been defeated. The fact is, they've always been defeated, except in an aberrant election of the kind that we just had. I've often written that Vajpayee was the best congressman we never had. The man was a Nehruvian, and the recent biography by Ullekh MP demonstrates the extent to which he was not only deeply impressed with Nehru, but how Nehru spotted his talent and actually told his cabinet colleagues that one day this boy is going to be standing in my shoes. So there was a kind of reciprocity of respect which characterized our democracy. Between the communists and Jawaharlal Nehru, there was very little ground for political agreement, but they had such respect for each other. That's because A, circumstances have changed, and B, more importantly, and more to the point, I think, is that the top-down style of management, which has been the Congress Party's style, particularly since the time that Purushottam Das Tandon became unexpectedly the president of the Congress in 1950, has been to make Delhi the seat of authority. Now the time has come to make people at the grassroots, who are Congress activists, feel that the party belongs to them. And I'm not only pleased, I'm simply astonished that in my constituency in Tamil Nadu, where the Dravidians have been in power totally for the last 50 years, and I don't see any prospect of the Congress coming to power for the next 50 years, in that constituency, we have just enrolled approximately 50,000 new members. There isn't a village in India where you won't find someone or the other who holds aloft our tricolour, the Congress Party's tricolour, and proudly says, I'm a congressman. So the Congress Party does exist in every village and every basti of India. And it is through empowering them that we can get back to a position where our political management gets as efficient as it used to be, say, 40 years ago, when Indira Gandhi, say, was the Prime Minister and could run a Delhi-centric Congress Party.
You know, some of the questions which are coming in, they are suggesting that the Congress is confining itself to the question of secularism, and it has not been as active in taking up farmers' issues like some other people and so on.
Now, this kind of Congress Party should hang on to four basic fundamentals: democracy, secularism, socialism, and independence in foreign policy, for which we used to have the word non-alignment. I think these we should be firmly anchored in. But at the same time, a huge number of topical issues will arise, including, for example, at present, the farmers' issue. And while I think we have been raising this issue in Parliament and elsewhere, perhaps your querent is right, and we need to be even more seen in the forefront of the farmers' agitation. I would certainly be in support of that.
Two quick questions before we end. I mean, one is that this particular challenge that we are facing, what the Congress is facing, the country is facing, is it because of the weakness of the Constitution, or is the Constitution being subverted?
Well, the Constitution is so strong that subverting it is very difficult. Certainly, changing it is almost impossible in any fundamental sense. And the courts have said that the basic structure of the Constitution cannot be trampled upon. So, in these circumstances, it's the Constitution that is holding up the country, even under BJP rule. But the attempt to bypass the Constitution and promote things like cow vigilantism, which are certainly not authorized by the Constitution, shows us that the BJP challenge is going to be on the fringes of the Constitution and around the Constitution, but perhaps not immediately frontally on the Constitution. If they reach a stage where they have a two-third majority in both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, then I fear that Ambedkar is in danger of a second Miriam. But so long as a third of the seats, or a little more than a third of the seats, in either house is with the opposition, with the non-BJP opposition. I think we have a constitution that is sufficiently strong and sufficiently resilient to not suffer the fate of the Weimar Constitution. So, although I'm persuaded that Mr. Modi's role model is Adolf Hitler, I don't think he'll be able to imitate him in every particular.
What do you think he's trying to do in Kashmir?
I think he thinks there's a military solution. And I think he feels that this macho image he projects strengthens his domestic Hindu base in the rest of the country. But the danger is that in the process of doing that, he has certainly lost Kashmiri hearts. And I hope he doesn't end up losing Kashmir.
Well, on that note, thank you very much, Mr. Aiyar, for being with us. And thank you very much for being with the National Herald.